Okay. So I am trying to figure out how this works. So bear with me while I figure this out. Trying to see if I can stream on Instagram. Man, that is how it looks. Yeesh. Is there any way that I can change? I guess I can't. It's just vertical. Well, that sucks. That's not exactly what I wanted, but I'll just do it like this then. Okay, so let's just test out a game and then we'll go from there. So I will open up Retro Arch and we'll figure it out. Where is that? Okay. So let's open up Wayne Gretzky 3D Hockey 98 and we'll let's see. Testing 1, 2, 3. Test stream. I'm not really, there's no real goal to this. I just want to be able to see if I can stream retro hockey games on this channel, and we'll go from there. The Panthers won the cup. Everything's good, so
the NHL.
We'll get Wayne Gretzky 3D Hockey up here. This game is actually really fun. It's simplistic. You just really have a season. Hockey 98.
Tonight's matchup, Florida versus Philadelphia.
So on the road. So this is working much better than I tried to do it on Twitter. Twitter was having some issues.
Here's the opening faceoff. He goes down. It's up.
Actually, that is way too loud. 1 second. Let's like bring that to half, and all right, I think that's much better. That should be better.
He shoots.
Block shot.
Bombs away. The shot and another save.
I wish I had much more control over who I passed to, but
Bombs away. He deflects it. He shoots.
block shot.
Bombs away.
They hit.
The shot.
There it is. That's a great pass. High danger chance. Middle of the slot.
The shot. He shoots. Knocked away. The shot. He shoots. Great block. He turns it over. He shoots. Bombs away. The shot. Oh, what a mugging. Bombs away. He leveled him. The shot is blocked. The rocket. Ooh. He shoots.
You know I can't really set up a one time. Let me try. Maybe I can.
The shot. He shoots. Great block. The shot. He shoots. Bombs away. Oh, he took a shot.
Maybe I should. Okay, I'll try a different sequence here.
He shoots. Ah! The shot. That goalie's a wall.
Beezer. You couldn't stop the rebound.
The shot. Oh, it's getting ugly out there.
Hold on. Let me try and fix this. No. No, I'm not trying to quit the game. 1 second. Yeah, this game is pretty loud. Like, super loud. And I have this lowered as much as I can, but... Well, not as much as I can, but, like, it's... Alright. Okay, so now it's better. So, let's see. Let's bring this out. But this thing, you know, it's made by Midway. So, it's got all of this arcade goodness to it. Let's see if I can get... Trying to get that second goal. There we go.
He goes down. He feels it. He shoots. Bombs away. 20 seconds left. The shot.
Melon B. Okay. So I'm trying to figure out. Well, let's see, 98, right? So I still think this is because John Van Beesbrook's still on the team. He wasn't with the Panthers when they opened what is now Emirates Bank Arena. So this is definitely, if it's 98, I would say this is for the 97-98 season, which would be the last one that they played at Miami Arena. So
It's showtime.
and obviously the arenas here are all generic, so this is not exactly the Philadelphia Spectrum. But yeah, you can just kind of pretend it is. I'm trying to see if I can get my friend to set this up on his computer so we can play multiplayer. We can kind of just do I guess a let's play type of thing, but you know, just like shooting the stuff while we talk hockey, especially like this off season that started. Man, you know, the Panthers win the cup, and yeah, there it is. The Panthers won the cup, and it just felt like immediately free agency period started. Right, we had the cup, then we had the draft, and then we had the parade, and then we had the free agency period start. So it's just like we're seeing Ryan Lomberg and Brandon Montour going completely nuts at the parade, and then 2 days later they're no longer members of the Florida Panthers. So I kind of wish it was, you know, at least another couple weeks or something, just so we could have a little bit of a decompression. I'm sure it's fine for hockey fans, right? More hockey is not a bad thing, in some, at least in some sort of capacity. But I think as a Panthers fan, man, I just wanted to marinate with some of those guys on our team one more time, right? So it was like, you know, OEL's gone, Montour's gone, Lomberg's gone, Stolarz is gone. Nick Cousins is probably going to be gone, right? If he hasn't been sucked up already. Last I checked. And I think it would have been cool just to marinate with our boys a little bit more, even though I feel like the way that they celebrated with the fans, like I get it that yes, there we go. I feel like as much as like Edmonton fans especially are saying, oh, we would have had way better celebrations in Edmonton, like they're like, oh, there's barely any fans there celebrating with the guys the day after at the Elbow Room while Kachuk's jumping into the ocean with the cup. And it's like, I don't think the Oilers guys would have had the same level of freedom to celebrate like that in Edmonton or in any city in Canada, really. I think it would be highly more regimented, because I mean, you just see the insane Stanley Cup bender like the Washington Capitals had, where, you know, Ovechkin's going completely insane. They're jumping into fountains and like going in nuts at the Washington Nationals games. And the Panthers players were just kind of all over the place with the cup. They were at 11. They were Elbow Room. They're just kind of walking into random restaurants with the cup. I don't think you would have seen that in Edmonton. I think it would have been so highly regimented because they're like afraid of like nefariousness with some fans and what have you. I don't think they could have celebrated the way the Panthers did with their fans. It felt way more organic, and I think that was the beauty of winning it here in a quote-unquote small market hockey town, right? So you know, it just, I can't get enough of it, really. I really can't get enough of I can't get enough of the celebrations. I was rewatching like Paul Maurice's on ice interview with Sportsnet, and him talking about his family. And you know, it always gets me because I'm close to my dad, and Paul Maurice was saying, you know, hey Dad, your name's gonna go up there with some of your heroes, and he starts naming like all of his dad's heroes from, you know, that were players that You know, it's like Gordie Howe and was it Ted Lindsay and Richard and just a bunch of guys that he's, you know, it touches you. The way that you see Kachuk celebrating with his dad and Brady and you know, Roberto Luongo finally getting his. Wasn't the way that he probably would have wanted it or expected it, but it's still just as sweet. And now that some time has passed, and I'm a fan of all South Florida sports teams. So the Dolphins, the Marlins, the Heat, and the Panthers. And I could care less about the soccer team. They're there. It's nice that they win. Cool, right? I'll rep them, but like, you know, Messi's barely on the team anyways because he's off to play with Argentina. So what is there to care about if he doesn't care about the team? But that's funny. Loveliest joy. That's great. I was in Philly actually a couple weeks back. In any case, what was I saying? I was talking about. Oh yeah, the pantheon of this Panthers championship compared to all the other South Florida sports championships and its place amongst all of those, or at least its purpose. Because I still think, like, if you're gonna say like which one was the most important, I think that 1972 Dolphins team is really hard to top. the perfect season, the first one in South Florida sports, professional sports, in a major sport, and they were the only team in town, and it was only like year 6 of their or 7 of their franchise's history. It really mattered a lot to put Miami. It's not okay. This isn't just a tourist town, and it really put them on the map and establish the Dolphins as an institution for like the next 3 decades, really. You know how much the Dolphins have been coasting on those first 2 championships and nothing since, right? And they've been lucky. They had Dan Marino on those things, but they just haven't been to a Super Bowl since 1984, right? So so that I still think that's probably the number one most important of the ones here. The Marlins 97 championship, because that was the next one, right? After like the 73 Dolphins, everybody kind of just gloms it on with the 72 Dolphins because it was most of the guys from that team still, right? Back-to-back championships. But the 97 Marlins was important, yes. And wow, the Flyers have scored 2 on me here. Yikes. I got to get it together. But it wouldn't be a Panthers game if it wasn't a one-goal game that was just, cardiac cats type of fashion. The 97 Marlins was important. They did it also quickly, right? Just like the Dolphins, it was year 5 of the team's existence, and they won the World Series, but all of it is tainted. All of it is just tainted because of the fire sale. And it really began this never-ending cycle of mistrust with South Florida and the baseball team. A few seasons later, right, the Marlins win a second one just out of nowhere, it seems. But even then, that team can't keep it together, it can't sustain, and it takes another 9 years for them to move into an actual ballpark of their own, and it's been worse ever since, right? So I think of the 2 Marlins championships, I think 2003 was the most important because really that one probably saved the team from leaving South Florida. You win the second championship, it justified not losing the team and having the politicians say, okay, we'll allocate the money from this and that and find a way to keep them, right? but still, it wasn't the ideal situation. I think a lot of people would tell you that the Marlins are not in the right spot for their ballpark. They should have been a little bit more up north to garner all of South Florida like the old stadium was. And I think the Marlins championships were important to them, but not to the region itself, which is unfortunate. Even the 2003 Marlins team is my favorite sports team of all time. That was my childhood. Those guys are like my heroes, right? If I was like Paul Maurice just naming off heroes, I'd be naming those guys. But it seems like the Marlins championships, the first one was tainted and the second one was more of a benefit to the franchise and not to the fan base or the region. So there's that. The Marlins, so that was the Marlins. With the Miami Heat, so then the Marlins win there too. And then the Heat win 3. Right? You got 06, you get 2012, and you got 2013. Like, which of those is the most important, right? The 06 team was sort of built to try and win a championship, right? And was the culmination of years. Hey, Cats win.
That's the end of the game. The Panthers 4, the Flyers 3.
That first 2006 Miami Heat team, the emergence of Dwayne Wade as a legitimate superstar, essentially carries the team to a championship victory. And so that is important in and of itself because it really validated everything that the Miami Heat had done for that decade prior, because they go out and they get Pat Riley, and Pat Riley tries to build this into something, and it finally culminated into something, and everybody gets their championship.
Tonight's matchup, Florida versus Philadelphia.
And then just on the backs of that championship alone, you can entice a LeBron James and Chris Bosh to come up and set up that big 3 era of the Miami Heat. 2012 and 2013.
Here's the opening faceoff.
And of those 3, which is the most important?
Sheer hustle.
Because 2012 was important to LeBron, right? Because Dwayne Wade had his already. The franchise already had theirs already. But LeBron really needed that one. He really just needed to get one. And it was like, okay, about damn time he gets his. So 2013, who was that one really important to? I think that one's more important to, I think that one, you know what, I would say 2013 was probably the most important to the region. Because by that point, the 2006 one was important to the franchise, for the Miami Heat franchise, because then it entices LeBron and those guys to come over. 2012 was really important to LeBron and really those players, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh for the big 3 thing. But 2013 was important to South Florida as a region, as a fan base with the Miami Heat. Established the Heat really as one of the elite franchises in the NBA, right? The experiment did work. Despite the fact that they lost 2011 and would lose 2014, but 2013 meant that the Heat hate index was at its highest. Right, once they win one, and then now they're the defending champions, and then they almost lose, and as much as the fan base gets a lot of flack for showing up late to the games, leaving early in Game 6 towards the end, and then the miracle comeback happens. But I think after that, it solidified. That was the 3rd one. It solidified really an entire generation of Miami Heat fans that still carry on that Heat versus haters moniker to this day. Heat culture was created, and it's carried ever since. And heat culture is a thing. Heat culture is truly a thing, and yeah, it's beautiful. It can be ugly at times, but it's also a beautiful thing because I think it's one of the more unique franchises in all, or fan bases in all of the NBA and sports, really. And it's hard to build that in South Florida, but they did it. They built it. But man, this Stanley Cup championship. This Stanley Cup championship. Talk about validation for the 30 years of the franchise, right? Massive contingency of people up north that don't even, there we go, don't even think the franchise even exists. Don't even think hockey should even exist below the Mason-Dixon line. It is, it validated a lot of people down here, their love and passion for the game. Even in South Florida itself, like people, if you were like a diehard Panthers fan, and a Panthers only fan especially, right? Not only fans, but a Panthers only fan, Panthers only fan. There we go. People would look at you like, are you crazy? You follow this completely terrible franchise that doesn't win anything, doesn't even make the playoffs in a league that half the teams make the playoffs in? And then you know, the change was the Viola ownership. That was the culture change right there. And they didn't get it right in some instances, right? There were growing pains that were. There was after the 2016 season, there was some personnel decisions that people questioned, but everything leads to something else, and they were continuously trying to improve, spending where they needed to spend, not making excuses to not spend, and actually gave a damn. And that only built trust upon trust upon trust amongst people in the fan base, and bringing in new people as the team got more and more successful, bringing in new people, and making people love hockey. I mean, the countless times you see, like, there's a lot of guys on the Miami Dolphins that really love the Panthers. Like, that seems to be a thing now. It's a beautiful relationship now between the Florida Panthers and Miami Dolphins, where the hockey player, like the football players, are really into the hockey team, even if they've had no background in it in the past. But there's really not a lot of conflict in schedule between them, so they can sit back and watch this team and see them do their work, and I think there's because of the physicality, there's a mutual appreciation for the skill and the toughness of the players, and I think that's amongst a lot of people when they see hockey players. You know, hockey players, like, you'll hate them on the ice, right? If they're on your if they're playing against you, but then they're like sweethearts off the ice. Most of them, of course, are sweethearts off the ice, and I think anybody who's ever interacted with them can tell you that's what it is. You know, I think the Florida Panthers built it in a way that was organic, right? They didn't try too hard with it. And I can compare this to another team that also struggles to draw, and for whatever reason, well, not for whatever reason, but had always been the butt end of a joke, and it was the Marlins. After, let's say, the honeymoon period was over, and let's say after 2010, or actually since they moved into their new ballpark, let's say that. The Marlins continuously are the butt of jokes of people down here in South Florida. There's people who actively hate them in South Florida. And I can't say that anybody down here ever hated the Florida Panthers. they were indifferent to them, which might actually be worse in a sense. Because indifference means like you don't even want to bother enough to care in even the negative sense. But the Marlins don't try, and they always find excuses to not try. Whereas the Florida Panthers, like after 2016, you know, the way that they were trying to build the team with analytics, and the team is still based on analytics. And if you believe that they built this team the way it is, no, they're using analytics, but they're just doing it differently, right? They're just, you look at numbers differently, or you build teams differently, but using different strategies. But the Florida Panthers there was never any sort of indication that the team was going to penny pinch. They were going, the Viola family were going to try and get this right, spend where it needed to be spent, and built it up. And then they help renovate the War Memorial, build a new practice facility, and you start enticing actual good players, and you build this culture. And honestly, I think the Florida Panthers and their players, I mean, it's the most wholesome franchise down here. This Stanley Cup championship, it might be hyperbole right now, but it might be probably the second most important championship down here. It's like, I don't know if the Miami Heat really needed the Big Three era, but they got it, right? But the Florida Panthers really needed this Stanley Cup championship. It validated so much. It justified so much. It's going to open so many doors for hockey down here. I mean, it already has in the last few seasons. And you see how it could have been worse, right? I gave you the example of the Marlins, but from a hockey example, look what happened to Arizona. You could say 10 years ago, the Panthers and the Coyotes were in the same situation. Both franchises went two totally different ways. One wins a championship, and that same season, the other one relocates. Well, actually, quote unquote, doesn't really relocate, is suspended, and all of its assets sold to an expansion franchise in Utah. I had even thought of scenarios where maybe the NHL could merge the two franchises, because they've done that before. The NHL's done that before, I think, with the Cleveland Barons and like the Minnesota North Stars, where all right, they have a merger draft and the team keeps the best of each team, and then the rest are drafted amongst the rest of the NHL. And then you could open an expansion slot and go from there. And my idea was, okay, the Florida Panthers stay. They absorb some of the Arizona Coyotes players. They lose some of their players to the merger draft, and you could at least build a better team that way. But now,
and here's the faceoff.
But now, I mean, sheesh, it feels like such a wild idea. But 10 years ago, I don't think many people would have scoffed at such an idea.
What a setup.
I mean, the NHL's just did this arrangement with Utah, so nothing's out of the question with how they want to handle these franchises. So, like, the Coyotes, man, I do feel bad. And there's, wow, sheesh, they immediately score. But yeah, it's insane to think that could have been the Florida Panthers, right? Now looking, I guess, an eye towards the future. I know I'm Panthers historian, but I got to look towards the future now, right? We'll see how the Stanley Cup defense goes. That'll be that'll be a new sensation, a new feeling for a lot of fans down here for sure. Especially if you've only really followed hockey. Because at the very least, right, like the 72 Dolphins defended their championship and won a second one, right? And they went back to back, and then they lost. The 06 Miami Heat, I mean, the following season was not great. They got ousted in the first round, and then the next year after that, they completely blew it up, and they were tanking. The 97 Marlins, I mean, dear Lord, just the worst possible scenario. And actually the worst in South Florida sports history. And I don't think any team down here will ever do that ever again. I think you look, I think any team in all of sports will ever do that ever again. Because you see how much you can completely destroy a market just by doing that. And just the trajectory of baseball in South Florida would have been different if Huizenga was just like, I'll keep this band together for at least 2 more seasons. That's all it needed to be, really. And I think people would have accepted that, but he completely blew it up that offseason, and the team has never fully recovered. And until they get a big pocket owner, a real big pocket owner, not a bunch of guys like what they have right now with Sherman at the helm as the face / scapegoat. A real big pocket owner that's like, hey, we're gonna if we gotta pay to fix this mess, we're gonna do it. It's not gonna get fixed. So anyways, so yeah, the 97 Marlins never had a chance. The 03 Marlins, a lot of people think they blew up the team almost immediately after that one too, but they didn't. Derek Lee was gone because he was a free agent and he was going to get paid, and that's what happens, right? I mean, it just happened with the Panthers, right? Monterg went out to get paid. Lomberg, so it's OEL, Stolars. It's not uncommon for that to happen. You can't keep everybody, but the Marlins did. I will give credit to Jeffrey Loria for doing that, because the 2004 and 2005 Marlins were largely the same core of players. After that, then they had the big send-off of all those guys. But at the very least, that rebuilding of the team was pretty quick. It's unfortunate that Major League Baseball just didn't have the current playoff structure that they have now, because if they did, that Marlins team would have made the playoffs in 2009 at the very least. And even David Sanson was telling you, like, they would have operated things differently if there was, those 2 extra wild card spots. Because it's like, oh, you can get in with 84 wins. Oh, we definitely had the talent to be able to do that. Hey, let's go out and make a trade. Like, that makes sense. They weren't gonna break the bank with it, but they would have at least tried a lot more. So fine. After 2012, I don't give any credit for anything that they've done, because it was just awful. But at the very least, the 2003 Marlins afterwards, they kept it together for 2 more seasons. And then you had the big 3 Heat. They lost. They went to 4 in a row. They lost the first one. They won the second one. They went back to back, and then they lost the last one. And then LeBron decided to leave, and it was over. So there's not much that they had control over that. It was LeBron, and it was gone, and it was an era. It was fun. They did what they sort of needed to do with 2 of them at the very least. So this Panthers team now, they're locking up a ton of guys. It's beautiful to see, especially for Panthers fans. I mean, this is the first time this is ever happening. This is why it's exciting to be Panthers historian, because all the good stuff is happening right now. Like, when I'm Marlins historian, I have to always kind of, I'm like, well, everybody's sad. We just lost again. Then we lost to the Chicago White Sox, who are like the worst team. Here's the clip from 2003. You guys are happy? Remember this? Remember this from 21 years ago? But this 2024-25 season for the Florida Panthers will be
Philadelphia.
You've got Anton Lundell locked up. You've got Sam Reinhart locked up. You have Aaron Ekblad locked up until pretty late too. Alexander Barkov as well. Bobrovsky, even though he's going to be older, and eventually Spencer Knight should be taking over that job. Gustav Forsling, another one that's locked up for a while now. So you have just those core guys all locked up, and then it makes you feel good. It makes you hopeful that they'll have a, and this is the most recent example, a Tampa Bay Lightning type of run, right? Where the Panthers are constantly in these deep playoff runs. The Lightning went to 3 straight Stanley Cup Finals, right? And they won 2. Bubble, you want to, bubble in 2021. Kind of weird seasons, but still, they won 2, right? And even then, like the 2019, they had, at the time, the best record in the best ever regular season in the National Hockey League, and they got super embarrassed by the Columbus Blue Jackets, which was funny. But and then the Lightning in 2015 were in the final, so kind of hoping we're gonna get that type of run. You have that, the Blackhawks, but without the sexual assault, or the Detroit Red Wings, but without the fall of Rome type of thing, where it's like they try and keep it together for too long and don't try to rebuild on the fly.
That goalie's a wall. Bombs away. No good. Oh, it's getting ugly out there. It's a black.
So yeah, that's. We'll see what these new guys coming in, right? And they're all like on 1-year deals. So Zito is is finding a way to try and fit everybody under the salary cap, keep the core guys, and not be too. I would hope not to be too top heavy. You don't want the issues that Toronto has with trying to keep everything under the cap while also trying to get competent players. Holy crap! How did I miss that? So, I mean, some teams have gotten better in our division alone. So, like the Lightning signed Gensel, they lock up Hedman, they lose Stamkos, and that's huge. That's huge. That's It's not really a shift in culture for the Lightning, but it might be. It might be, because that was your guy. That was the guy that not only was he a center, but he was the center of your franchise. So it's going to be also interesting to see how the Lightning look different next season. Toronto picked up a few of our guys. Stolars, who will have a good opportunity to be the guy in Toronto, and he had a pretty damn good sample of what he can do. But we'll see whether that was a product of Stolars himself, which I'm not gonna discredit what he did as the backup goaltender to Bobrovsky. But was it all just him, or was it a product of the unrelenting defensive system that the Florida Panthers have constructed? We'll see, because that's going to be different personalities going to have in Toronto. OEL is coming along with them. So, and that's really OEL's contract is essentially kind of like a retirement contract in a way at his age. I hope he gets treated nicely. Given Toronto, I think he didn't really have a great time in Vancouver. I mean, Oliver Ekman-Larsson spent all those years in Arizona. He's played for these Sun Belt franchises most, and so we'll see. But I hope they treat him well. Stolarz, we'll see how he does. But I'm really interested to see how he is going to handle Toronto's system, because they've hired Craig Berube, right? So won the cup with Arizona, St. Louis. So a guy that has a pedigree, and a couple of other players that do have pedigrees, but still the core of players that they already have in Toronto that still don't know how to even get past the second round. So maybe they're missing that it factor still.
Here's the draw.
Let's see who. So Lomberg goes back to Calgary. So this kind of gets me, now that the Cats have won the cup, is it a little bit more okay for me to see a Canadian franchise win? Kind of, sort of, but it depends, right? I made that list in just shortly after the Panthers won the cup, a couple days after, of which franchises I was cool with. I'm not cool with Toronto. I don't want them to win the cup. I think it's funnier if they don't. I think a 108-year wait, kind of like the Chicago Cubs, would probably be best, right? You know, after 108 years, then they can win the cup. So we'll see 2075. I think that'll be the year that they can win the cup, and then I'll be okay with it. So we'll go with that. Paul Maurice. I said that I wasn't cool with Winnipeg, but only as a joke, because, like, you know, it'd be fun to see the Thrashers come back in a way. But Paul Maurice giving his blessing, in a sense, that, or at least pleading to the hockey gods, that if any Canadian franchise were to do it, or at least the next franchise to do it, he would want it to be the Winnipeg Jets. And you know what? If Paul Maurice is cool with it, then I'm cool with it too. Holy crap, I'm losing. I'm okay with Ottawa. I think it would be nice to have both Tkachuk brothers have the cup. I feel like Ottawa is probably the most comparable to the Sunbelt teams in that they're really the afterthought of so many fans of Canada, because they have such a uphill climb to try and win over fans. You have to deal with Toronto, and you have to deal with Montreal, and you're smack dab in the middle of those two franchises and fan bases. And you've had decades upon decades between the original Ottawa Senators and the current Ottawa Senators, where Toronto and Montreal solidified both of those regions, and you're smack dab in the middle trying to figure it out, and it's hard. It's hard for them. They really do feel like the Sunbelt franchise of Canada. So you know, there was relocation rumors. They had ownership issues. Like, you know, it's like, oh, the arena's like in a not great location. And they just had a lot of the same issues that a lot of Sunbelt franchises had. So I do kind of feel bad for them. So if they were to do it, I'd be cool with it. Then Vancouver. So I think, you know, Vancouver is pretty cool with us. Especially they definitely wanted us to beat Edmonton, and they haven't won yet. Like, at the very least with Ottawa, you know, there was the Silver Seven, those original Senators that won the cup. But, you know, Vancouver, it's like, what, the Vancouver Millionaires did win it, right? Back when it was like the Challenge Cup era. But it is the Canucks themselves. It's just they've gotten close. You know, the heartbreak, you know, in 2011 and '94. It's, I think I know I'd be cool with the Canucks for sure. I was thinking now that the Cats won in Game 7 with Luongo banging the drum, they should call the drum the Luongo drum, right? It's not just the Panthers drum. They should call it the Roberto Luongo drum. Like, I think we should just name it after him. And just that'll be the tradition. It's funny how that tradition came up because that was never a thing that the Cats used to do. Now, the last few seasons is when they did the banging of the drum. And that is now a new tradition to go along with the Rats. So I don't know whose idea it was, but it was a brilliant idea. There we go, tied up the game. Let's see, so that was Vancouver. So Calgary, and because I mentioned Ryan Lomberg and then I started going off on this tangent, but there is a method to this stream of consciousness of me right now. You know, a lot of the guys, the Panthers that won this championship obviously came from Calgary. Tkachuk, Lomberg, Bennett, and really the trajectory of this franchise wouldn't have gone this way without the Calgary Flames. And this goes way back because 1995-96, it was opening night, or at least the home opener for the Florida Panthers that year, and that was when Scott Mellanby killed the Rat. Who was their opponent? The Calgary Flames. And then you have the Tkachuk trade. The biggest trade in franchise history. And, the rest is history, right? So, but there's a few guys. So Lomberg is back there now as a more of an established player. So Lomberg is back there. You have Weegar and you have Huberdeau. And, I think a lot of Cats fans feel bad for Jonathan Huberdeau in that sense where he's not the same without the personnel of the Florida Panthers, the guys that are on that team. I don't think he ever expected to be the one of the three guys, right? Him, Barkov, and Ekblad. I don't think he expected he'd be the one that be traded of those three. And he's still kind of dealing with it, maybe in a way mentally. And honestly, he went into a really bad situation with Calgary. They had Daryl Sutter, and just probably the worst coach that he could have to break out of this in his post-Florida Panthers career. I hope he does come back one day to kind of bookend it, where he comes back to the Cats as like the aging veteran that, is on the fourth line, but can still kind of do a thing. Whoa. But it'd be nice to see Huberdeau get his too. And I think everybody could kind of feel good about that entire, like where both teams win that transaction, because right now the Panthers have won the trade by a long shot. And I don't know how long Huberdeau is on the plans of Calgary. I mean, he's there with the big. They signed him to a big extension, right? So I have to kind of take a look at it. Once this game is over, I'll pull up Puckpedia and see what Huberdeau's exact terms are with Calgary. Like what's his movement clause, and what's, if anything, and because I would hope that if he can't do it with Calgary, just for as a fan alone, as a fan of Huberdeau, I hope he'd find a trade, like they find a trade partner and just have him go to a contender if the Flames aren't. But the Flames haven't really been that bad these last couple seasons. They just have not done enough to kind of to get over the hump. And heck, last season they had more points than the Panthers, but they just couldn't qualify in the Western Conference. So, but Huberdeau himself, his production fell off a cliff. So, but I'd be cool with Calgary if Huberdeau's still on the team. And they did cheer for us because we beat Edmonton, and so that was it. You know, we're all cool with that. Heck, Kachuk's in Calgary right now for the rodeo, or whatever, the Stampede, or whatever's going on out there. Yeah, so. Trying to get this game-tying goal. There it is. Yeah, if Toronto does break, yeah, we have to all escape social media of any sort. MySpace, TikTok, a Tumblr. Like if the Leafs win, it's about to go down. And sheesh. And that's why we can't have it happen. All right, we can't have it happen for like at least another 40 years. They need to get over that century mark, and then it will be okay. All right, overtime. So I'm trying to eliminate Philadelphia here. So this is game 4. I mean, we're wearing our home whites. At this time, they were home whites. So this is actually happening at Miami Arena. So now that the Cats have won the Cup, what other perks is there left for this Panthers team to get from like the league? So we hosted the All-Star game not too long ago. We hosted the draft not too far ago either. But now that I guess the Sphere happened, everybody wants the draft to happen at Vegas every year, which you know, I don't think the NHL will do that. I think especially I don't think the owners would want that to happen because that's revenue. Let's say you have a terrible team. Like say, I don't know, the San Jose Sharks, right? And it's like, okay, well, you know, our attendance has gone down, that type of stuff, but we've got the draft, so we'll make up for that from attendance and then from that. So that's probably the reason why I don't think the draft would just be in one solitary location every year. It's just another way for one team to at least get revenue from the attendance, people attending the draft. So Panthers got the draft not too long ago, the All-Star game, the season prior, and really the only thing left is for the team to get into and they've gone to Europe. They're going to Europe this season. They're going to Finland, and then in 2018 they were in Finland before that too. So they've had those already, but we need the outdoor game. It's time. It's time for the outdoor game. It is absolutely, positively time for the outdoor game. We have the venue. We have Lone Depot Park in Miami. It'd be amazing. The return of the Florida Panthers to Miami, to their original home. You could have fans actually throw rats. Like you can do away with the rule because like the ice would probably be so far away. I don't think anybody could actually make it onto the ice, or if they do, it'd probably be like 1 or 2. So I think the distance alone, I think a lot of people, you know, we don't want people blowing out in their UCLs and need to get Tommy John surgery because they threw a rat at a outdoor hockey game, which would be funny. That'd be a funny story, but it's time. Make some faux, like you could actually have a Leaping Cat alternate jersey to pay homage to the original jersey. You could even have it in white, right? Lone Depot Park, if it's, you know, humidity and the temperature and everything isn't working, then okay, fine, keep the roof closed. Because the Winter Classic, you could call it, or the Stadium Series, whichever one of the two, but I prefer the Winter Classic because you get the eyeballs and everything, and I think it's a lot more special, right? Because winter is not just cold. Winter for a lot of people is leaving the cold and coming down to the warm place. They beat me in overtime. So the Winter Classic is that. It can be warm weather winter as well. So I think the definition of Winter Classic isn't just, oh, it's cold. It's just, this is the time of season. So I think the Panthers more than deserve an outdoor game at this point. They have a venue. It's the only one in Florida that can actually do it, aside from Tropicana Field, but the Lightning have already played there as a regular home. So, and Tampa has no other viable venues. You're not going to do it at Raymond James Stadium. It's going to have even more issues because you can't, it's not climate controlled. And the Rays aren't building a new ballpark anytime soon. They have plans to, but they're not going to open it anytime soon. I think at this point, the Panthers have more than deserved it. They should host it. You know, the Lightning have been in an outdoor game, but they were on the road. But the Panthers have the venue. They've already spoken, like the NHL and the Marlins and the Panthers are already kind of discussing it anyways. So I would hope that that's in the works within like maybe the next 2 seasons. We'll have an actual game. I think the logistics, the technology, I think it's all there. So there we go. Now the opponent, right? Who would be the opponent for a Winter Classic or Stadium Series against the Florida Panthers? And I've made this poll before on my channel, but so I think you have several options. You could have rematches of Stanley Cup Finals, right? You could have Colorado, Edmonton, or Vegas. So that could always be a possibility. But I think the NHL will kind of stray away from that. You could have, of course, the Lightning and the Panthers, and have an all-Florida Winter Classic, kind of a little kind of akin to where we had with like the Ducks and the Dodgers, or not the Dodgers, the Ducks and the Kings had the outdoor game, and the Kings and the Sharks had an outdoor game in California, Stadium Series. And you had the Predators and the Stars had an outdoor game. So, and then the Hurricanes have also had an outdoor game. So you can do them with just Sunbelt opponents. It's happened before. But I think the NHL would definitely want to pair the Panthers with an outdoor fan base. A northern fan base. So it's going to be the usual suspects, right? New York Rangers, the Boston Bruins, the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think that's where the NHL is probably just going to look at them. And the Montreal Canadiens. if I had to, if I had to choose myself, I think just for marketing purposes and contractual purposes, I would say it'd be the New York Rangers. I think if the Panthers get an outdoor game, it'd probably be them versus the New York Rangers. And there's several reasons. You got the theme, of course, of New Yorkers coming down for the winter. The Violas themselves were, and Sifu and all, they were all New York Rangers fans in the past. So it'd be kind of like a coming full circle type of moment as well with like the President's Trophy. You have, and in this past series as well, you have the baseball side of it where it'd be like, oh, kind of sort of an homage to the 2003 World Series between the Marlins and the Yankees. And then you also have the contractual obligation of the New York Rangers. The New York Rangers are contractually obligated to play every single one of their home games at Madison Square Garden. So although the Rangers have played in Winter Classics, they are all technically road games for them, even if they've been closer to New York than their opponent, right? So, like the Buffalo Sabres were considered the home team in the, I think one of the Stadium Series games at Citi Field against the New York Rangers, because the New York Rangers are supposed to have all of their home games at Madison Square Garden. So it'd make perfect sense to just throw the Rangers into an outdoor road game against the Florida Panthers. Probably be annoying, and I think the Panthers would try and have, of course, the control to sell tickets to Florida-based, zip codes and stuff like that. But that problem's always going to be had here because there's just a ton of New Yorkers down here, right? So just naturally, they're already going to have Florida-based zip codes. But we'll see. We'll see, right? Season ticket holders would have, of course, first rights at tickets and everything. I would hope Marlins season ticket holders, how very few there are, would have some rights to those tickets as well. But I don't know how that exactly works with like the Winter Classics.
4, 3, 2, 1.
So, yeah, that's how I see it. I think that's what it would be. I could see Boston just because right now that rivalry is hot between the Panthers and the Bruins.
It's getting ugly out there. Bombs away.
And I think the NHL really would love like the ratings as well, which is why I don't think they would even pair the Panthers with the Lightning. Unfortunately. If it's a Winter Classic, I think that they wouldn't pick the Lightning. If it's a Stadium Series, that's like in February or something like that. That's usually when they put a Stadium Series game. It's just like a weird month. It's I think then you would have like the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then other dark horse candidates for like a team that the Panthers would face. I mean, you have Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, right? And then, of course, the NHL always throws Chicago into an outdoor game when it makes no absolute sense. Like next season, they get the Winter Classic again, and it's at Wrigley Field again. It's like it feels the most undeserved Winter Classic appearance or outdoor game appearance for them now. It's. I don't think that franchise deserves a lot for now. I mean, nothing against Connor Bedard. He's brilliant. He's a great, great, great young player. But the Blackhawks have not earned, for all the things that they've done, they have not earned being back in the good graces of the greater hockey community right now. So, In my personal opinion, at the very least. All right. Let's see. Man, what other topics are there? Oh yeah, I was gonna look at Jonathan Huberdeau's contract. It came up in my head. Let me pause this for a second. Pull up Puckpedia and do that. I wonder if I can do this on here. Hold on. Let's actually make this into an impromptu show. How am I supposed to do this? This is going to be very, very, very raw, but I'm going to do it this way anyways. Let's just put this on Google. Put this on Google, and then we'll search for stuff, and we'll go from there. All right, yeah, right it is. That's how I'll do the thing. This is very, very primitive way of doing this, but I'm doing it anyways. I just want to look it up. Yeah. We'll interact with this. No thanks. And we'll look for Puckpedia. Okay, so we'll go from here and let's look for Huberdeau. There's our boy. So Jonathan Huberdeau. Why is this like this? Hold on, I gotta change this. I know what it is. 1 second. I know what's going on. Do it again. All right, let's do it again. 1 second. Okay. Let's see, Huberdeau. It still looks kind of weird. I don't know why it's looking like this, but whatever. At this point, so he's got, I'll highlight it. Maybe that'll help with visibility. $10.5 million cap hit. He's in year 2 of 8 of his, of his current contract right now. He's played, so last season he played in 81 games. 52 points. Definitely a long way away from his 100-point season back in 2022. And yeah. Take a look at this. Signed on August. This current contract, August 4th, 2022. He was technically a UFA when that happened. So, does he have? What are his clauses? I'm trying to see. I would assume he'd have like a no movement clause and no trade clause, or something like that. But I can't see. This is a new website, so I'm not used to it. So I'm not used to. I don't know where exactly I'm looking for this stuff. Criticized by contract now. I just want to see the actual contract itself. But AV sending bonuses. Oh, there they are. The clauses. Doy. There it is. There's a big list of it. So yeah, no movement clause. Wow. Yeah, through 2031, and that's, you know, when it expires, but like, so he's stuck with Calgary and they're stuck with him for now, and they're gonna have to find a way to make the best of it. So he's 31 right now. He's got 6 more seasons, so this will take up to like age 37. It's just not good. This is, all right, let me go to, where's his stats? Where's his playing stats? They showed it here. So 23, 24, 81 games. Okay, so that's what it really is with that one. And then how did he do? Okay. Well, it's unfortunate. All right, let me take a look at his hockey reference page. And let's take a look at his overall. So our boy Jonathan Huberdeau. And yeah, the formatting of the video right now is not formatted to Instagram because I'm also doing this on YouTube. So I still gotta find a way to figure out how I'm gonna do this. I think I can. Hold on. I think I can. Hold on. I think give me a second. I think I know of a way to do this. Ah! Smack my mic. Alright, and then let's group these. Cool. And then let's move this around. 1 second. So I'm just trying to see if I can fit it within the screen on Instagram. Oh yeah, it's getting better. Just one more. I'm gonna just one more shrinking of this, and then we'll go from there. Is that on YouTube this won't look as clean, but on Instagram it actually looks pretty decent. Let me see. There we go. Okay. I think that's formatted as well as I could get it. It actually looks pretty good on my phone now that I'm looking at it. Okay. Let's see. Except the actual stats thing here for Huberdeau looks really tiny. I'm gonna have to improve that. How am I gonna do that? this will help out. I think I actually made it worse. Oh boy. Yeah, it still doesn't look... Okay, that actually does look a little bit better. You can actually... It's actually kind of sort of legible. Cool. Okay. So now I can actually sit down and take a look at the Jonathan Huberdeau's overall career stats. Long way away. Calder Trophy, of course, with the Cats. War number 11, number 10. 81 games played. So he's playing. At least he's been playing. So he's stayed healthy enough these last 3 seasons because you know, he's had 2 seasons where just kind of injury riddled here, but for the most part Jonathan Huberdeau stayed healthy throughout his career. So 31 in the shortened season, 48 games, 31 points, 48 games there. 28 points in 69 games, very nice. But still, a drop off, just adjusting to the NHL there, right? Then 2014-15, the team improves. He starts improving a bit, 54 points in 79 games. Then 59 points in 76 games, and the Panthers win the division. Then the next season, he gets injured. Just a disaster of a season for the Panthers in 2017. Then he has his first ever full season ever. He plays every single game. It's a very nice 69 points. And then a big jump next season, 2019. All 82 games, 92 points. He becomes a point per game player. The same thing in the shortened 2020 season. 69 games, nice. 78 points. Then injured, but also, weird 2021 season, but still became point per game player. 55 points, 61 points in 55 games. And then 2021-22 is career year, 80 games, 85 assists, an assist per game player, a point per game player, 30 goals. And then the trade happens. And then under Daryl Sutter, he's been healthy, but 79 games, 55 points, +2. And then last season, which was like -29 on the ice. That's more than just a defensive liability. 52 points in 81 games. It's been, man, I just feel it just feels bad, like just to see him drop off so much. You know, Flames finished 5th. They had 81 points, kind of a mediocre team. And the Nazem Kadri led their team in scoring. And then Mackenzie Weegar, he's got 52 points out there as a defenseman, +2, so he's doing fine. But given the circumstances, but Huberdeau is just I don't know. I don't know what it will take, but hopefully, the upcoming season for Calgary will be good to him. So 24-25 season. Ryan Huska as head coach, and all these freaking ads, dear Lord. Sheesh. Okay. Let's see. So that was a little bit about Jonathan Huberdeau. So I'll get back to this. So, so the first few days of free agency period was a bit hectic, as it has been, you know. And I've been at the arena when on free agency day one, and it is hectic. You're just constantly checking your phone, looking for whatever. It's a fun atmosphere. It's a fun day just to see how things go. I remember being at the 2015-16 or 2014. I think it was at the 2014-15 free agency period, the one that was prior to that season. How it was that was a pretty exciting season for the Panthers, because they picked up like UC Jokinen and Willie Mitchell and Derek McKenzie, and it was they had gotten Luongo back. I mean, that was it was just kind of like, okay, this team is on the verge of something. They're still with a bunch of young guys, and now I'm trying to think of, like, now that the Cats have won the Cup, which currently active players from past teams that were not part of the 23-24 and of course this and the last season's 22-23 team, which of those guys would I want to see to win the Cup too, right? So I already mentioned Huberdeau. Of course, would love for him to win the Cup. But you know who's another guy? I mean, there's also Vincent Trocheck, right? Just the respect that he had for Barkov, to the point where he's wearing number 16 for the Rangers, and he did that to honor Barkov. A guy who he played with is still active, and he was like, yeah, he's the best player I ever played with, and I'm going to honor him. Like, that is massive accolades for Barkov. And everybody keeps saying, oh, he's underrated. Not to everyone else. But you know who's another guy who I'd love to see win the Cup? Nick Bjugstad. Big Nick. He's bounced around a bit. He's been with Arizona. He's now in Utah, right? We're going to see how that franchise works as well. I haven't really spoken about the Utah situation. I mentioned it with Arizona, but I didn't really mention how I feel about Utah.
The Panthers 3, the Flyers 2.
I mean, I'm okay with it. Honestly, as much as I feel bad that we've lost a Sunbelt team, and I'm always backing the Sunbelt teams when they're not up against the Panthers. And actually, I don't really back the Lightning anymore because, But I do feel like there needed to be some sort of resolution to the Arizona situation, whether it was good or bad. And unfortunately, we got the bad ending. We got the bad ending.
What was he thinking?
And it's not an indictment on the Arizona fan base at all. I don't think it has been. I think that the Coyotes have always been plagued with terrible ownership and terrible personnel decisions, and there's nothing that the fan base could do with that. And as Panthers fans, we should know how that feels. Because we've dealt with it so many years in the dark times between 2000 and 2012. So I think it's not an indictment on the Arizona situation, on the Arizona fan base. Obviously, Arizona produced one great player because the Coyotes existed, Austin Matthews, right? If the Coyotes didn't exist, Austin Matthews maybe doesn't play hockey, right? So there is a benefit to that in the long run. And all the Leafs fans who are saying it doesn't belong there, well, your best player is from a Sun Belt region, and you wouldn't have him if it wasn't for that franchise. And I don't know whether Arizona should get a team. Well, let me stick with Utah first before we talk about like expansion and that type of situation with the NHL. I think 32 teams is a good enough number right now. I don't want the NHL to overexpand at this point. You know, Utah's, they're so far the arena situation. So that I guess they've already gotten the approval for the funding of the arena. I don't know what I haven't looked into it as much as I should have, but they have the Delta Center, but I don't know if they're not. I don't think they're building a new one. From what I think they're just going to renovate the current one to be hockey specific. Akin to what Seattle did, right? Seattle's arena was a basketball-specific arena, and then they dug down deeper to turn it into a hockey-specific arena to get the room to be able to do that. So I would assume that Utah would do the same thing if they're just using the existing structure and then configuring it to hockey from there. Because right now, at the moment, the setup is essentially what the Islanders had at Barclays Center in Brooklyn, or what the Coyotes had in, ironically enough, when they first started in Phoenix with where the Suns play. That's a basketball specific arena, so the ice is too big for the surface there, and so the seating arrangement is awful, and there's obstructed seating and what have you, and it's a smaller arena for as far as capacity is concerned because the ice is too big. So I'm assuming that Utah is just going to renovate what they currently have, which will be fine. That'll be good. Good for them, and Seattle's already proven that they can do it. I think Utah will be fine as I think they're excited to have a team. I think because it'll be a smaller venue, it'll be full. And just for the first few years, despite being the former Coyotes, there's a lot of great young players there. They've picked up some guys as well in this offseason, which should help bridge that gap. It's one of the few things that separated the Coyotes from the Florida Panthers from like in the early 2010s, where remember Dale Talon signed all those guys before the 2011-12 season, and that was just to bridge the gap for the young guys to develop and just have a bunch of aging veterans kind of stick it out whilst that happened, and the Coyotes never really did that. they had to throw their young players to the fire. At the same time, they are picking. The Coyotes did pick up aging veterans, but they were picking up all these contracts with veterans that could no longer play anymore, that were essentially retired, right? Teams that didn't want to buy them out, so they sent the contract to Arizona just so the Coyotes could meet the salary cap floor.
That's the end of the game. The Panthers 5, the Flyers 4.
So it's refreshing to see that the Utah, I don't know what they're gonna call their team. I haven't really harped on the name. I would like the Mammoth. I think that sounds like a pretty cool name. But like the Yeti just feels like, I don't know.
Tonight's matchup, Florida.
There's something. Hey, Panthers and
Pittsburgh.
Penguins. Look at that. Some more 90s rematches, right? Yeti, I don't know. I mean, even for a time, at least the Avalanche had like a Yeti foot as their secondary logo. They don't use it anymore, but it's still within it. So how are they going to deal with that? The Blizzard, a lot of people think that's too close to Avalanche. But I mean, you can have the Blizzard. I mean, we have the Lightning and the Hurricane, so you can have similar elements of weather and natural disasters be team names in the same league. It's not really, that shouldn't really be an issue. But I just feel like Mammoths or Mammoth. I mean, singular Mammoth kind of sort of doesn't make sense to me. But I mean, Mammoths aren't really, you don't really hear that. You don't really hear that as a team name. It'd be unique. And it wouldn't feel as cheesy. It'd be a prehistoric creature. And it'd be a pretty fun matchup to see between like the Nashville Predators and the Utah Mammoths, and have that going as well. You could make some like Ice Age memes from that, right? I mean, that could be a fun name. I think that'd be a fun name. I personally would have liked the Utah Hive, singular. Right? It's like the Beehive State. It made sense. I think of like you could, you could have the fan base sort of try and operate as if they're in a hive mind type of thing. In a eusocial type of setting, just like bees themselves, right? Just pretend like they're eusocial insects. The Utah Venom, huh? I don't know. I feel like we're getting a little bit too close to the actual character of Venom from Spider-Man. And honestly, I don't associate Utah with venomous creatures, right? I mean bees, but I feel like Hive would do that a lot better than Venom. Like when I think of Venom, I think of like venomous reptiles and things like that, right? So like, snakes and such. But I don't associate Utah with that type of stuff. Because I think most of the teams in the NHL, most of them are named after things that you can associate with the region. Most of them, not all of them. I think there's a good majority of them that aren't. But like, Carolina has hurricanes, right? Washington is the capital, so I guess they can be capitals, right? Plural. Pittsburgh, yes. I guess at a zoo you can find penguins in Pittsburgh. They're not natural. They're not native to Pittsburgh, but it's, great alliteration. Flyers is just kind of a concept of flying. The Philadelphia Flyers have never really stated what they are, and it's spelled like Flyers, like a flyer, like a piece of paper or something. And they've never really associated themselves with like airlines or aircraft or anything like that. But I guess technically there are things that fly in Philadelphia. The Blue Jackets, that is indicative of the region. So, you know, a Civil War reference and such, right, to the Union. So you have that. I'm trying to remember. So the Detroit Red Wings. I forgot that there is a method to the name, but I think it was based on like some guy's store or something that had to do with like Red Wings or something like that, and that's why it's named after that. And then they just kind of, they added the wheel and everything like that, so it's not so it kind of matches the Motor City. The Boston Bruins, I guess there are bears in Massachusetts. It's not anything I associate with Massachusetts, right? When you think of Massachusetts or Boston itself, you don't think of bears. But I would assume they have bears somewhere around the region.
20 seconds left.
Montreal Canadiens, they're literally Canadians there, so that, sure, that makes sense. Ottawa's the capital of Canada, so there are Senators there. Toronto's the Maple Leafs, it's the symbol of Canada, that makes sense, I guess.
7, 6, 5, 4,
let's see.
3, 2,
what other teams am I missing? There's a bunch, right? The New York, okay, so the New York Rangers wasn't because there are Rangers in New York or whatever, because you think of range, it's like an expanse, right? It's because the owner of the Rangers, Tex Ricard, had the name Tex, and they just called them Texas Rangers because it's a play on the Texas Rangers, which are in Texas. So the New York Rangers are sort of named after a concept from Texas, right? The Islanders play on Long Island. Okay, that makes sense. The Devils, because of the legend of the Jersey Devil, which is, you know, mythology, local mythology or whatever. So, you know, a cryptid. So that makes sense. The let's see. What are the teams am I missing? Washington, Carolina, Tampa Bay Lightning, Lightning capital of the world, Florida, that works. Florida Panthers are actual Panthers down here. Yeah, that makes sense. That's associated with the region. Stars, even though it's sort of carryover from the North Stars, but they just happen to go to the Lone Star State. Stars are a mass. There's stars everywhere in Texas, along the highways, the symbolism of that, so that makes sense. The St. Louis Blues, I don't think initially had anything to, well, I guess, yeah, I guess their music, right, from the region, so that makes sense for that perspective alone. I think the Blackhawks were named after an infantry unit or something like that from like the U.S. Army, the Black Hawk Division or whatever, and so they named them after that. But of course, they were named after was a Black Hawk was an actual Native American, and so then that's what they use that symbolism. So that makes sense, I guess, from a regional perspective, because if that's where they were based in Illinois, then sure, but yeah. Winnipeg Jets. So the Winnipeg Jets was because Winnipeg is essentially the center of Canada, so they a bunch of airlines kind of put up shop and stopped there for a lot of things, so that makes sense. And then initially it was basically the Jets were based on like commercial airline jets, and then this current iteration of the Jets is based on jets of a military sense.
Oh, it's getting ugly out there. Bombs away.
The Minnesota Wild, right? Minnesota forests and stuff like that. That makes sense, you know. Land of 10,000 lakes, and so a lot of outdoor regions and wildlife. I mean, the Vegas Golden Knights, that is definitely not indicative to the region, right? This is Las Vegas. The pizzazz and the flair of their presentation, everything feels like native to the region, and them taking something that has nothing to do with the region, which is, I guess, medieval times, a medieval theme, and kind of making it their own, does feel like a Las Vegas thing, where they take stuff from everywhere else and kind of make their own version of it in Vegas. But, and obviously it's based on the Army Black Knights, because of course the owner for them also went to West Point, just like the Panthers owner. So that's mainly what it is, but nothing to really do with Vegas itself.
He loses the puck.
Los Angeles Kings.
Bombs away.
I mean, there's no royalty or anything like that in Los Angeles, California. So it's just kind of a name that just sounds pretty cool. And of course they had the purple and gold color scheme, because they had the same ownership as the Los Angeles Lakers, and you know that color scheme, purple, is a regal color. So and yeah, I would think, yeah, Vegas has like a medieval hotel and, you know, medieval times type of thing. Anyways, it's Vegas, right? They've got a little bit of everything. So if you want a theme, you probably can find it over there.
Oh, it's getting ugly out there.
Ducks. I'm pretty sure there are ducks in Anaheim, but it also came about from like Disney, of course, with their obsession with ducks back in the early 90s. So yeah, the Mighty Ducks movie, of course, and everything like that. But I'm sure there are ducks that live in Anaheim, California. So I guess you can call it, and you can make it indicative to the region. Sure. San Jose Sharks, there are Sharks, or Monterey Bay, or San Francisco Bay. Yes, Sharks exist. So that makes sense. Krakens don't exist. Kraken, I mean, there might be, if you're gonna maybe associate it with like the giant squid or the colossal squid, maybe some have washed up ashore on the shores of near Seattle, Washington. So there might be some living deep off the coasts that we just don't know are there. But the Kraken as a, you know, mythological creature doesn't exist. But if you're associating it with like the colossal squid, which is probably where the myths came from, just guys seeing those washed ashore, then back in Greek times, I would say, then yeah, I guess you can associate it with Seattle. But you know, the nautical theme, yes, you can definitely associate that with Seattle. Given they've got the Seahawks and the Mariners. So it all sort of matches, which is pretty cool.
Bombs away.
Let's see. So the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, Canucks is just a different way of calling a Canadian, right? So it's just kind of a concept, Johnny Canuck. They've used the Johnny Canuck logo in the past. But right now they've got the killer whale type of theming to them. But there are Canucks in Canada and Vancouver especially, right? So that kind of, I guess, sort of makes sense. The Calgary Flames. I mean, that was a name taken from Atlanta. And it's just the theming that they've kept ever since. But yes, I'm sure somewhere right now there's something on fire in Calgary. So you can't say that there are Flames in Canada, in Calgary. And then the Oilers, makes sense. Oil industry up there in Edmonton, sure. I think I've named all the teams. I think I got them all. So, once again, long tangent to say, I would want Utah's theming to be something that had something to do with them that you can kind of find in the region. I'm sure they found mammoth remains in Utah. There's bees, there's hives, there's all that stuff. And their Yetis don't exist. You might want them to exist, but they don't. So I don't know. Even then, I've never really associated Utah with Yetis. I consider that more of a Pacific Northwest type of thing.
Bombs away! Bam! He loses the puck. Bombs away!
Utah Mormons. There aren't really many teams with religious type of name, like the Los Angeles Angels, right? The San Diego Padres. Oh, there's already two in baseball right there. San Diego Padres, and then the New Orleans Saints. And I think that's it. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. Alright, I'm going to play this one last game and then I'm going to end this, but this was a good test. I want to do this a lot more often, but I want to get one of my friends or something to kind of play this with me. Or I could just have this in the background and have have conversations with people and everything like that. So I've been wanting to do a Panther-centric kind of weekly or bi-weekly show or something like that, but I just haven't had the chance. Now Twitter wants you to pay to be able to broadcast from your computer and everything like that. I don't want to do that. So I'm try to build up something here on Instagram and we'll go from there. And on YouTube. Oh. Yeah, okay, the Reign, right? That was another, but there's already a team called the Ontario Reign in the American Hockey League.
20 seconds left.
And it's in Ontario, California, by the way. They're I think they're the Los Angeles Kings AHL affiliate.
He steals it. He shoots 10, 9, 8.
So I would think that they wouldn't choose that name just for that alone. But even then, that's something I wouldn't associate with Utah.
That's the end of the game. The Panthers 7, the Penguins 3.
Alrighty. Okay, so I think that's it for me. This was a nice, fun experiment, and I guess I'll figure out if I'll do this more often. There's a bunch of stuff, but Loveliest Joy, thank you for commenting on a bunch of this stuff. So go Cats, go Cats. I hope you're enjoying the Stanley Cup victory in your own way. I've bought a bunch of Stanley Cup patches that I've ironed on to all of my Panthers jerseys. I've already got a decal on my car. I'm gonna change my license plate frame to a Stanley Cup Champions license plate frame. I've got a replica Stanley Cup. I got the 14-inch one that's up in my room right now, just looming over me, that I love waking up and seeing now. And then I've got my merch and the logos that I've made with for my own stuff with the Stanley Cup and everything like that. So everybody's celebrating in their own way. I didn't go to the parade. It just seemed like a hassle to go to as much as, and besides, I got to, it was live streamed. It was, you can just see it. You can, see it all over again. And we're all celebrating the cup in our own special way. I hope to see it up close and personal at some point. I hope sometime during the summer they'll have an event where it's like, come see the cup. And I'll stand in line for 2 hours or so just to take a photo with it. I'd love to be able to do that. And yeah, so I hope you and everybody else celebrating the Panthers Stanley Cup victory in your own special way, and hope we can do it again, and hope we get to do this again. So, bye bye.